Molasses is a brown, thick syrup made from raw sugar during the refining process and was typically used for baking, cattle feed, and even bombs, but it is also a main component in rum. We start this series in Boston, Massachusetts on January 15, 1919 at 12:30 p.m. It was during this time a storage tank at 529 Commercial Street in the North End containing 2.3 million gallons of molasses burst, causing a 40-foot wave of molasses to rush through the surrounding North End streets. The molasses was estimated to spill through the city at a whopping 35 miles an hour, sweeping up everything in its path, toppling buildings, people, horses, dogs, and even an entire fire station which was completely ripped from its foundation. On top of the massive surge of sugary death that swept away the surrounding area, upon bursting, the tank, which initially held the molasses, shot out shards of itself with immense force, acting like its own explosive device, which is why some initial theories of the cause mentioned a bomb. During the chaos, 116 cadets from the USS Nantucket, a training ship for the Massachusetts Nautical School that was docked nearby, rushed to the scene and entered the knee-deep substance to rescue survivors. Red Cross, Boston Police, the fire department, and the Army were soon dispatched to help. Their efforts were continuous, but after 4 long days, they decided to call off the search for survivors. Many of the disaster's victims later found were almost impossible to identify due to the molasses, which was completely glazed over their lifeless bodies, and some victims weren't even found until weeks later due to being swept into Boston Harbor. One 8-year-old child's experience was captured in an article for Smithsonian by Edwards Park. Quote, Anthony DeStasio, walking homeward with his sisters from the Michelangelo School, was picked up by the wave and carried, tumbling on its crest, almost as though he were surfing. Then he grounded and the molasses rolled him like a pebble as the wave diminished. He heard his mother call his name and couldn't answer, his throat was so clogged with the smothering goo. He passed out, then opened his eyes to find 3 of his 4 sisters staring at him. End quote. Anthony's 4th sister, Maria DeStasio, unfortunately died due to asphyxiation after being suffocated by the molasses, and at only 10 years old was the youngest victim of this disaster. In total, 21 people were killed and 150 people were injured. The aftermath exposed the victims, dozens of toppled buildings, and an unreported amount of horses that perished, which were still commonly used as transportation at the time. Initially, the cause was undetermined, leading to many theories, but investigations revealed that the most likely reason was that the tank, which initially held the molasses, was poorly constructed and tested insufficiently. That, paired with internal pressure caused by fermentation within the tank, and with the warmer than average 41-degree day, the overbearing pressure caused the unstable tank to erupt. The investigations further concluded that if the correct construction and procedures were followed, this event would have been totally avoidable. But with the race against prohibition, the faulty tank was ignored. United States Industrial Alcohol Company, the company that owned the molasses tank, was sued by the local residents in a class action lawsuit and was ultimately made to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages and to the relatives of the victims. The total payout amount would be near $10 million in 2020 after inflation is calculated in. Today, a sole historical plaque sits near where the disaster happened, and even 100 years later, on hot summer days, it is reported that you can still smell the faint odor of the sweet liquid if you're ever near Commercial Street. In 2019, Boston held a 100th anniversary remembrance ceremony to recognize the disaster, which Bostonians have nicknamed the Boston Molassacre, a cynical spin on the most disastrous event to ever happen with just molasses. For now. Thank you so much for watching the first ever Macabre Me episode. If you're interested in more content, please like and subscribe and click that notification bell since I really don't have a set release schedule yet. If there's an event, person, cryptid, or any macabre or supernatural topic you'd like to see next, please let me know down in the comments. Thanks again, and I look forward to creeping you out again soon.